man. I'm so excited. This has been such a great tournament so far. The best still yet to come. Vitamin C versus quantuM. Can the Cinderella story continue, or is this its final chapter?
And one thing I think we haven't put enough emphasis on is the perks, the abilities that these players are pairing with these weapons to make them that much more important. We see that quantuM, 2 of their members are running the Object Shredder. Nobody on the side of Vitamin C is. On the flip side of that, Vitamin C running a perk that I talked about but haven't really seen that much this tournament, which is the Special Saver ability. If you're running that Special Saver perk and you go down, that's Vitamin C essentially banking on the fact that they're not going to win every 1v1, but they will have those specials more at the ready than they would if they just relied on skill alone to win the 1v1. So Egg on that roller, unfortunately, is going to lose there to Fake Japan. Fake Japan's positioning, they're very, very strong. They will have on the side of quantuM, the Splattershot Jr., I expected that from Vitamin C. We did not end up seeing it. Instead, their Ink Armor weapon is going to be that Inzap, which is very, very common. And Lily pushed all the way back, not just by Zero, but by that Inkjet as well. And this is getting to a point where quantuM, all they have to do is continue to watch these jump down points, and they will have this match on lock.
And look at the way that they went about that. They threw down a bomb first to move them back. Then they jumped down with the jet, and then Zero just running in and just getting the outright 3-shot takedown that the Splattershot is known for. That's just great in the moment knowledge of how to push your way in. And yeah, man, this is not looking good so far. Let's hope that that Special Saver comes in clutch, because they are not winning many of these 1v1s at the moment.
And I like the way that Emi was able to push in there, have that splashdown at the ready for exactly when they needed it. Fake Japan will take them out, and you see here, this area does allow them to play a bit kind of funky. They can just kind of hang below the bridge. You can't really turf it, but you can watch out for any enemies that are either chasing you or that are sitting on that bridge. And look at the roll there, able to survive, and not just that, get the double kill as well to put quantuM in a great position. It looked a little scary for them for a second, but they forced a 3-down situation. The last one alive, Emi has to back all the way off. And now Egg, who's just sort of rolling around with this roller, not really paying any of the members of quantuM any mind, just trying to stay alive. That's not the position you want to be in. You want to be in a much more proactive position instead of a reactive one.
Those were very difficult shots to hit there by Randy here on this. Not a weapon that diving, putting pressure on the enemy. But hey, if it works, it works. Now we're finally starting to see some push in. I don't know that I like Egg running that direction off by themselves. A baller does have some armor. Randy, but that was a crucial missed opportunity. Could have crashed into the middle, supported the rest of the team, but running there at the bottom of the screen, I don't agree with that decision.
Yeah, survivability is not an aspect of the game that can be understated. You really have to stay in a position where you can survive as long as possible. Zero there, caught in a situation where they had absolutely nowhere to go, and there were 3 members of the enemy team facing them. So this could provide Vitamin C with a chance at the very end of the game to push forward here. Jax trying to stay alive, Emi pushing all the way past, just caring about the turf, and Vitamin C, it's going to be close, but at least in those last seconds, they did give themselves a chance at winning the game. Unfortunately, quantuM did have enough of a lead built up to, even though Vitamin C did have a last-second push there, they were able to hang on, and they will take game 1.
That was a lot scarier than it needed to be, and I think that Lily got a little zealous pushing in there. You saw Johnny was able to take a pick there at the end and use that to control a bit of mid there while Lily was pushing forward. The reason why staying back and getting the pick on Johnny might have been a better move there is when you push into enemy territory near other enemies, they have the opportunity to paint over the paint that you're throwing down there. So, very close, a couple misplays, but a great showing there from Vitamin C at the start.
And this tells me that, again, this will not necessarily be that 3-0 sweep that I think quantuM is hoping for. There is a lot of life in this Vitamin C team that has allowed them to make it this far. And so, even though this is just for seeding purposes, they really do want to have the best chance available to them by being in that winner's bracket at the start of the next round. We will be moving after this. When they come up next, they will be doing ranked mode. So this is sort of their last hurrah into Turf War And so they want to go out with their best performance possible. I think some of their weapons they may need to adjust in order to make it more turf war friendly. You know, when you stack up something like an NZAP and a roller on the same team, that doesn't leave you with very many options to have fantastic turfing weapons. So if they just switch maybe even one of those weapon slots around as we move on to yet another massive map, that should give them a better shot to push in those last 30 to 45 seconds.
We'll see if that ends up going down the way that we talk about it here. We talked a how much pain it is going to take, and we do see those Dapple dualies. We haven't seen them as much as we thought we might see them up to this point. We're getting a heap and helping of them here, though, with both teams opting to run them.
And you can see there's a Toxic Mist on both of those ramps, both of those conveyor belts. So that is going to make it a lot slower for the enemy team to move around in those situations here. We see Fake JP waiting to get a kill there and knew where exactly the dualies was going to be rolling. Forces the splashdown out of, I believe, Emmy as well. And now they're going to come behind them unseen. They got a shot off, backed off, and that's smart positioning, right? You don't want to be pushing in to a bunch of shots. You want to maybe get a couple shots in, back off if you're in too deep, and then continue pushing forward if you know you have the advantage. So really, really good dualies play. The Dapple dualies are a pretty difficult weapon to play just because your positioning has to be on point. But as you can see here, it's paying off in spades, and they've already forced a 3-0 situation onto Vitamin C.
And this isn't going to be a map where they can kind of work their way back in with one big push, right? They're going to need to sequentially win a few of these 1v1. That is a couple going down here. If Egg can get this clean up, and they do, that is going to be 2 down, but it costs them 2 of their own in order to do that. And as you see, there's a lot of purple that they're going to have to work through before they can even start to take back this lead. Jex is going to clean that one up, and it's the same old song and dance once again.
Yeah, you can see as the dualies went down there, they just kind of threw that storm out in desperation. I'm still surprised that they're relying on this blaster. That's not a weapon that I would think would suit turf war very well. You have to be incredibly accurate with your shots, and if Vitamin C doesn't give themselves that many opportunities to have engagements where, you know, most of the turf on the ground is theirs, then the blaster isn't the ideal pick here. You want something that can turf and shoot at the same time, and Emmy falling down. Zero says, I'm not going to let yourself go down. I want the credit for that kill, and so they will take it. A shot to the face, and Fake here, Fake Japan with this Inkstorm at the ready. They don't even need it right now. You can see that until Vitamin C starts to push in, they're just going to hang onto it and rely on the skill that their main weapon provides in order to make these last minute, the last 60 seconds count here.
This is a chance they've got themselves a little bit of grip. But Fake JP sneaking all the way up here, does get called out there and stuck in a very well-placed Toxic Mist here. The Stingray is going to be able to take down one of their best painters, though. So that's a very important one. Another one going down, and that is just the biggest buzzkill ever. They'd finally done something to give themselves a little bit of control. You saw some orange on that map, dangerously close to halfway, but Stingray says no.
You do say that the last 30 seconds are the important ones, and they, I think, had all spawned by the 30-second mark, so there is still an opportunity here, but the 1v1s are going to need to be won, and only 2 of those necessary shots were hit, and so Fake JP will survive. Lily trying to find themselves an engagement, but instead of that, they're just going to push forward and try and turf as much as possible, but at the same time, quantuM is painting the turf behind them, so the icing on the cake, that full wipe with 35 seconds left, and quantuM will emphatically take it here on Piranha Pit.
It's not looking good, not nearly as convincing or as close as that last game was. quantuM saying, all right, let's just take a moment here, stick to our guns here. I know that Jex there sitting with that 9KA, 3rd down on the paint, doesn't look all that impressive, but that Stingray really was the turning point. That Stingray that had taken out 2 of them. There were only 2 members that were left that could really stop that advance, and I believe one of them had just gotten taken down, but the Stingray from spawn was just enough to keep that under control, kind of put out the fire that had started from Vitamin C.
And by now, you're probably used to the strategy of the Stingray. When you build it up, you jump back to spawn so that you're in a completely safe position. There is absolutely no way that the enemy can take you out from there. And you use it, and you try and get your team to both call out the enemy and get a little bit of visibility as to where you need to be shooting that Stingray, because you do have to be firing it for a second in order for that extra range on the sides to come out. So you do want to be holding it down, ideally, the entire time and know exactly where the enemy is grouped up. So we now move on to Gobi Arena. the newest map in the game that was not present in Splatoon 1. And this is a pretty interesting map. You know, the middle section of it is relatively just flat. It is based on a basketball arena, basketball court. So there's only those 2 boxes where the nets are to give you some high ground. But behind that, there is just a maze of boxes, walls, high ground, uninkable areas that you can use to your advantage. So if you're a Splatling player, that allows you a lot of opportunity to sort of walk around, stay safe. There's that raised platform where you can see the entirety of mid that you can fire shots down on. And then you let your shorter range weapons, your shooters, even your blasters have a field day in the middle section of the map. If it gets to it, you can start to push forward. There are some grates, and as I mentioned, some uninkable areas that make it a little bit tougher to spawn camp on this map. But the main thing is just not letting the enemy team back into mid, because if you give them all of that area, then you're going to be the ones that are trapped in that absolute maze, that almost walkable area that is right next to your spawn. So positioning, as always, is very key on this map.
With these long maps, it's so important to have control of stingrays and know when the opponent is going to stingray as well. They're going to use that to try to find a way to push back in. It does look like neither team has brought out a stingray, so scratch whatever I was about to tell you. It looks like both teams are putting a premium on central control. You see the bubbles coming out and a bomb rush coming from the other side. So some very deliberate picks here.
And I love your phrasing there, a premium on it. That's what their entire focus is on. So they really are wanting to make sure that they have as great an impact on the middle section of the map here as possible. You can see these tiny sponges that they're able to use to get on top of this high platform, but it really does mean that they're that far pushed back. And with specials like the splashdown, they're able to push that far forward without fear of going down that early on. Fake JP chasing that kill all the way back behind those walls and are able to take them out. Vitamin C going 3 down here. You know, in theory, I like the pick of Egg's roller here, but for that to work, you need to be in the middle of the map. You basically have to exist on that basketball court. If you're in this area where the walls are key and you don't have an area that you can ink, those hallways are not inkable in a lot of cases, then your curling bomb strategy does nothing. I also like the end parry duelist pick here, because with all of these different height ranges here, I think the inkjet is a crucial special to have here so that you can maximize your kill potential with that weapon.
And look at the way that Jex and Zero took that position. You're seeing now the effects of it as they all go down. But Jex and I can't remember who it was, Zero. Jex and Zero, as we see Fake JP just add insult to injury here, they used, one of them jumped up and the other one baited, and that is how they were able to push that Zinc Mini out of there. Once the Zinc Mini was pushed out of that position, they all had to come crashing into the middle. From there, it was a matter of just hurting them one way, and they were able to clean it up. And the dividends of that are still paying off. That is what teamwork and coordination and synergy looks like in the game time.
Yeah, Fake JP currently one of my MVPs of this set. They are not afraid of anything. They are willing to push forward as much as they need to in order to get the kill that they started tracking, maybe all the way in mid, but pushed forward half the map away. Now we see Randy coming away with a kill here, so they are going to be going into a 4v3. Vitamin C as Egg finally getting close to mid here, so if they can build up that splashdown, that they should be free to move forward here. 3 members are locked down on the right side of the map, so they did have an opportunity there, but they will be taken out. The splash ball taking a lot of the flicks that the roller was trying to provide. Both teams have here, of course, adding a Splattershot Junior, so they are going to, in theory, have at least one more ink armor available to them. Johnny trying to build up that last ink armor of the game, and they do have the inkjet available too, so the inkjet needs to be used at a time when the ink armor isn't out. Lily does get it off, so they do need to push forward here, but they're 2 down already. They only have the Splattershot Junior, which has almost no range, and the Zimmy, which is going to be focus fired here behind this pillow. Fake JP gets behind them and takes them out, and that should be it. quantuM locking this one down from the beginning in the last few seconds here. They're not going to lose much ground. A final kill onto Lily by Johnny, and that should do it. quantuM with an emphatic stamp on this set as they 3-0 the members of Vitamin C.
And the story of the set there is the in-the-moment coordination between 2 players. There at the very end was the story of the set. Right after we had gotten done talking about the way that Jex and Zero were able to work together to take that position, the coordination they showed, you saw a situation where the Zimmy and the sloshing machine were both up. They were both up and in the middle, and they could have held their position. but the sloshing machine went forward to try to get a kill while the Zimmy was moving to try to get up on top of the basketball goal. Neither of those in a vacuum are bad decisions, but in the moment it allowed a 2v1 to go on to one of them. They were stretched out at that point. The last one went down and there was no central control. So if you want to see what it looks like, what that coordination we talked so much about with these top teams looks like, look no further than right there. Big moments that change the game.
There are a couple things that I think were the turning point in this game. One of them was the decision by Vitamin C to bring that roller back into Game 3. I think they saw in Game 1 that it wasn't very effective. They needed to just shelve it and put on a weapon that was going to be better at turfing and give them a better shot to push into mid. They relied on the fact that the roller was going to be able to get into those tough situations, get back into mid, and come away with at least a trade, if not 2 or 3 kills. We saw there the final KA being 3 and 0 splashdowns used. And on the flip side of that, 6 ink armors built up on the side of quantuM in that Game 3. So it's so difficult to play a roller when 9 times out of 10, the people that you're engaging with are going to be able to resist that hit no matter what. And it's going to take you that much longer to try and reposition and get a flick onto them. It's a lot easier for quantuM to just hit you and take you out when your first flick is already gone. So effectively shutting down that weapon entirely, and I think that's the biggest area that Vitamin C needed to change in order to have a shot of winning on Gobi Arena. But as it stands, quantuM with a fantastic performance here. They looked a little shaky at the end of Game 1, but really other than that, they were the stronger team, and they have definitely proven themselves as a top 4 team moving into the winners semifinals next time they play.
And that set also really showed you why it is so important that you have somebody who can play a Splatling, because I think the longest range weapon that we saw from Vitamin C there might have been, oh, don't tell me it was the Zimmy. Was there one that am I missing that? Have I already erased that from my mind?
There definitely was the Zimmy.
There was a Zimmy, but was that the longest range weapon they brought?
You know, thinking about it, they were trying to rely on the shorter range weapons. They had, I think, a splatter shot with them. They had the Zimmy. They had the roller. I think that's about the range extreme that they had.
And looking at it now, Piranha Pit, Sturgeon Shipyard, and Gobi Arena, there's lots of spots there that a long range heavy can just stand up, paint, use that Stingray. We saw how big of an impact it could have there on that Piranha Pit game. But it's so difficult to rush in. It is so difficult to displace a heavy Splatling once it's set up. And you saw it right there. They didn't really have an answer. And that's the gamble you go for when you go short range. It can be hard to push yourselves back out if you get locked in too deeply. And especially in that second and third game, that really was the story.
So Vitamin C, again, not out of it. They will still be in our losers bracket when the tournament next commences. I'm still very excited to see that they have made it into the top 8, and I'm looking forward to seeing if they can pull off a nice upset when these teams play in a ranked mode instead. So really nice job there by quantuM. Of course, the other matches taking place, we are still monitoring those, so we appreciate your patience as those matches finish up and we can start to talk about them. I do believe that as far as the top 8 is concerned, it should be Set to Destroy X, who in theory is moving forward here. They did defeat Komodo 3-0, so they, I believe, are going to be another one of the teams in the next winter semifinals here. 3-0 Komodo, that's not an easy thing to do. They were able to